The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to The People's View.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. The show is sponsored by the Nashua City Republican Committee, and if you like to attend our meetings, they're the second Thursday of every month at 6:30 at the Crown Plaza. And if you want to find out more about our organization, you can go to nashuagop.org to see our website and learn about the events that we have. Hello and welcome to Chris Williams. Chris Williams is running for mayor in Nashua. And Chris, how is your campaign going?
I'm feeling pretty good, Carl. We've been out there now. We officially kicked off the campaign right around June 10th or June 15th. So for the past 5-6 weeks, we've been hitting it very hard. And every night, we're either hosting a house party somewhere in the city, or I'm out there knocking on doors. This past weekend, Saturday, I was out for 7 hours knocking on doors, and then Sunday I was out for 6 hours knocking on doors again. And I'm going back out this weekend. We're doing the same thing. So
we have a lot of signs out there too.
Yes,
your face is there.
It's a little. I do have to admit, it's a little embarrassing seeing my face literally everywhere across the city. The very first one that I saw, I didn't realize that my team had started putting up the big signs, and I was driving into to the campaign office one morning, and I come around the corner, and there's me, larger than life, staring right back at me from the side of the road. It was a rather humorous moment for me to be staring right back at myself.
Name recognition. They're going to have face recognition and everything.
Well, I'm really glad that we took the direction we did with those large signs in terms of putting my photo on the signs with my name, because when you think about other candidates in this race, some of them have been here for 35, 40 years.
That's true.
So people already know who they are. Putting my photo on these large signs helps a lot of people who don't yet know me understand who I am. So when they see the name and the face, they're like, okay, that's who Chris Williams is. Yeah.
Well, one of the things they ought to know too, I attended one of your house meetings, and the way you present your picture of the future, I think, is appreciated by a lot of people. You're looking at the big picture, and you can't do everything in the first year.
Yes, exactly.
So tell us a little bit more about your plan.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so for the viewers, the comment you just made, you're referring to a house party that one of my supporters hosted for me about a week ago over in Ward 1. And at that house party, we had about 40 people were there that evening along with you. And I talked at that house party about the fact that you need a mayor who is looking above the tree line and down the horizon, and a mayor who understands that you have to have a long-term vision for what the city could and should look like. And a lot of my conversation that night, and we can talk about that here too, is a lot of that conversation that night was about what my vision would look like for Nashua, so that 10 years down the road, here's what our city could look like. And I really feel that our city has a terrific opportunity right now to capitalize on our Broad Street Parkway that's going to be drivable 6 months from now, and use that parkway to completely re-energize, redevelop, and reposition our whole mill yard and make that mill yard once again the economic engine of our city, like it used to be when the textile factories were here. And when you look at my website address, even the website is movenashuaforward.com. It's not my name, Chris Williams for mayor, because this platform, this vision that I'm really putting out there, it's not about me, it's about the city and about positioning Nashua in a way that we are able to move it forward over the next 10 years in a powerful way. And I'm getting a lot of tremendous feedback in response to that sort of a conversation.
There's a lot of towns, relatively smaller towns, that are looking at that. In fact, I went to Notre Dame, and I just got their magazine, and their old Studebaker Works in South Bend, Indiana, is now becoming an entrepreneurial, startup thing. And they're taking good buildings, sturdy buildings, rebuilding them, not rebuilding them, but modernizing them, and then getting people to come in at very reasonable rates.
Yeah. You look around at, you don't even have to go out to Notre Dame to
Yeah.
see really good examples of how other cities are doing this. Just go 18 miles north to Manchester or go 20 miles south to Lowell. Those two cities to the south and to the north of us have done tremendous work in re-energizing their mill buildings over the past 20 years and re-energizing their downtowns. Manchester's got the Verizon Arena, the Fisher Cats Ballpark. All of its mill buildings are 100% occupied. In fact, just 3 weeks ago, they announced that they're going to be building a new business hotel right in the heart of their downtown, next to the Cotton Restaurant, for the viewers who know where that is. To the south of us, you have Lowell's Mill Yard and its riverbanks that are a whole different vibe and energy today versus what it used to be just 15 years ago. And then there's Nashua, kind of in between these two cities, almost like a donut hole, you know, where these two downtowns and mill yards are just rocking. And here we are with our mill yard, you know, kind of for the last 40 years, we've been sort of twiddling our thumbs and hemming and hawing about whether or not we should build this parkway. Donnelly finally got it done. I think that's one of the best things she's done for this city. And I can't wait to follow behind her and be able to take that project and actually put it to good use, redeveloping that mill yard. And that parkway finally gives us the opportunity to do that in a way that we just haven't been able to for the past 50 years.
Definitely.
It'll allow us to catch up to what Manchester and Lowell have already been doing for the past 20 years.
Have you contacted or worked with developers like that to help get them ready to invest?
Yes, in fact. So we've got a number of property owners in our mill yard already. You've got folks like the Aaron and Adria Bagshaw. They own the W.H. Bagshaw property in the mill yard. You have Arthur Spilios and his wife Marissa. They own the mill yard technology building in the mill yard. Rob Caro and his brother own the buildings with those signs that say mill space for peanuts on them. That's Rob and his brother. You've got John Stabile back there who owns the Cotton Mill building. You've got Steve Bonnet who owns number 3 and number 5 Pine Street Extension. These are all property owners back there who have owned these buildings for quite some time, and they're all supporting me in this campaign because I have sat down with each of them individually and shared with them this vision for what the mill yard can look like. And I've asked them, each of you are property owners. You are the ones that I need on board with this plan if it's going to work. And each of them says, Chris, this is a great vision for not just our mill yard, but for the city. And we're more than happy as the property owners to work with you on this sort of vision.
This is the area that you think should be the first focus, because you have other areas that are developing off Spitbrook Road.
Yes.
You have what might be something off Pheasant Lane.
Yep.
If they ever decide to move the rail up.
Right, yes, at the old
Which I know
chemical site, yes.
Yeah.
So you're right, there are different pockets of current development and potential development. Another great one is over by the Hudson Bridge.
That's right.
You've got a big site there that's getting ready to be converted into apartment units. But when you look at the overall picture, there are two major areas for development and redevelopment. And one is that mill yard that we've been talking about. There are close to 800,000 square feet of underutilized or empty mill space. So that's a pretty big chunk of redevelopment there that we would be able to do. So that's why I place such a high priority on the mill yard as one of the major focal areas that I want to bring some attention to. Now the second major area is right behind the Sheraton Terra or the Radisson Hotel off of Exit 1, just as you said a second ago. That the Gateway Hills campus back there, it used to be home for Digital Equipment Corp. It used to be the home of Hewlett-Packard. And of course, all of us know those companies moved out. Well, in the past 6 years, new companies have moved in to that campus and have helped revitalize it. Not only are companies moving in to that campus over the past 6 years, we've also built 460 new apartment units right in that campus as well. Market rate apartment units that are very, very nice and are filled with educated, skilled workers who are taking good paying jobs in those companies around that campus and down in the greater Nashua area or in the northern Mass area as well. With all of that great development happening, there are still 200 acres of undeveloped land
really? That
sitting on
much?
that campus. 200 acres, that's substantial when you think about how little space there is in Nashua today for new development. That really represents the single largest opportunity, that entire 200 acres. Now, I'm not coming in and saying let's fill out all 200 acres and put up huge commercial developments and take up all the available green space. I think there can be a balance there between preserving some of that and even perhaps connecting some of it to the heritage trails for viewers who enjoy the walking and bicycling trails and such that are part of that network. But I also know that the other side of that balance could be new development to bring even more high-tech companies into Exit 1 and put new housing units up in there as well. The reason I want to do that isn't just because I like the idea of having more buildings off Exit 1. I want to do that because in order to increase our city's tax base, you have to bring in companies and bring their employees with them. And when you do that, now you're bringing more tax revenue into the city. So there's a very logical kind of a line of thinking behind why I want to redevelop that mill yard and why I want to develop Exit 1. Because I understand that if you do that, we'll attract startup companies, biotech, software companies, the types of companies that have good paying jobs, and the types of companies that are on the cutting edge of industry today, which attract other fringe companies around them that make like an ecosystem here. Very similar to what Sanders or now BAE Systems has done over the past 40 plus years here. But when they started growing and becoming successful, you started seeing spin-offs, offshoot from Sanders or BAE Systems and other companies supporting what Sanders was doing and such. Yeah, so exactly. So you see this ecosystem that starts to blossom, and I know we can do more of that off of Exit 1 and in our mill yard.
Well, I think you're right. I think that's what the state's trying to do too, with their R&D tax credits and their reducing the business tax. So, but now that you're building all this, what about some of the problems in the city?
Yeah.
What do you think of the high-profile problems?
Yeah, so here's why I want to increase the tax base and bring in more tax revenue. Because I understand there are some pretty big needs in our city, and I want to be able to fund those needs. I have two priorities specifically. Number one is our education system, and then number two is our safety within the community. Let me touch on education for a second. I firmly believe that the health of any city, of any municipality across the country relies heavily on the health of its education system. A local economy and its local education system symbiotically support and feed off of each other. You can't have a vibrant community if you don't have a strong school system, because companies won't want to move to your community with their employees who have kids and don't think that you've got a good school system to support their children. Flip that around. You can't have a good school system either if you don't have a vibrant local economy that's able to actually support that school system. So I understand the two have to go hand in hand, and anyone who wants to be mayor has to have a healthy respect for the benefit and the impact that a good school system can have, not just on our families, but on our businesses and therefore the city at large. I'm the son of a public school teacher. My mom, she's going on 30 plus years of teaching in the public school system. So I want our teachers and our faculty, our Board of Ed members to know directly from me that there is no one who's going to value and respect them more than myself as the next mayor, because I grew up in the household of a woman, my mother, who was out there every day, in a public school system teaching kids. I understand the work that they put in to their jobs, and it's not an easy job. I've been in those schools. I've seen just how much our teachers have to put up with on a daily basis. And as you know, they don't get paid a lot, to do what they do. And I want to let them know they're going to have a mayor who wants to work with them, not someone who doesn't respect what they do.
Well, you know what, from an outsider, I haven't really participated because my kid's been long gone from college. But it doesn't seem like they're really working together for some reason. It does. There's always controversy in there. Too much testing, too much changes.
I know the
What did,
teachers I talk to, they tell me, Chris, every year it seems like we're getting a new set of
yeah,
standards,
right,
a new curriculum,
right.
that we have to follow. And by the way, when they get those sets of standards and those curriculums, they're not given the funding, or the
The
training,
training
to be
to
able to
really
actually
implement it
execute those.
properly,
Exactly.
and it's if you're going to look at the growth of people too, if you change the testing system, well, how do you compare
Mm-hmm.
that class with even when they were in grammar school or
Yep.
something?
Yep.
You can't if you keep changing that. That's what bothers me the
Yeah.
most is that there doesn't seem to be the longer picture
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
on how to make these things implemented and play smooth,
Yes.
not screw up the kids' thinking, and what the well have to bring up the Common Core. The way it was being implemented, even the middle school was rebelling. One
Mm-hmm.
middle school that ran the primary testing, I guess, on a test format,
Mm-hmm.
didn't care for it at all.
Yep. I was happy to see, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago, that the school district is now going to allow junior high school students to take the SAT
Right.
or ACT
The
instead of.
SAT,
Yep,
yeah.
exactly. I think that's a great
I
solution.
agree with you.
Yep, because we had, I think, close to 80% of our juniors opted out
Right.
of the test this past year when they were given that choice. I don't think that is a good,
No.
approach to be taking. But if you give them that option of saying, in lieu of
Yeah.
this particular test, you can take the ACT or SAT. That makes a whole lot of sense to me. So
I'm
I
wondering
was
why
happy
they
to see
didn't do
them
that
do that.
10 years
Yeah,
ago.
I know, right?
Because I mean that's been a standard. It's been around, and nobody's talking about changing
Yep.
those. You have history there, so you have a way of doing things.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
it's a national test too.
Yeah. The mayor has a limited role here in Nashua
Yeah.
when it comes to our education system. The Board of Ed members are elected by our residents, and the mayor has no seat on the Board of Ed. So there is a firewall between the mayor and our school district in terms of how much influence a mayor can actually have. I recognize that. I respect that. But at the same time, I'm going to be in there every day with
Yeah.
our Board of Ed president, with our superintendent, saying, what can I do as the mayor to support your needs here? Understanding that there's that firewall there, but there are still so many things that a mayor could be getting involved to helping
Seems like a
support.
lot of the decisions are more protective than innovative. You know what I mean? One of the things I like is that the couple charter schools that started in this area,
Yep.
and the the community college, which is really welcoming it.
Yep.
I don't see them all working together,
Mm.
which I think the mayor might be able to do.
Yeah, I've been to the charter schools, and I've seen firsthand how excited the students are in
Isn't
those
that
charter
amazing?
schools. It really is. It's pretty neat. There's some, I tell you, we got some sharp kids in this city, in all the school system. And I was particularly impressed, with just the atmosphere within the charter schools when I have visited them and watched those kids and gotten to talk with them directly and interact with them and ask them, what do they like about going to the charter school. And it's amazing to hear their stories. I think any parent should have the choice to send his or her kids to a public school, to a charter school, to a private school. I want to make sure that when they make that choice here in Nashua, that they have great options, no matter which route they decide to go. If they want to send their child to a public school, great. We have the best ones in New Hampshire. If they want to send them to a charter school, fantastic. We've got the Academy of Science and Design, and we've got the Gateway, School for the Arts right here for them to choose from. Or if they want a private school, great. We've got the World Academy here. We've got, BG, that you can go to. So we've got great options. I want to make sure that we keep that.
It's a cooperation that really can bring out a lot and allow people to know what choices they have.
Yeah. I mentioned I have two priorities in terms of where I want to be able to focus our funding. The first one being education, the second one being public safety and the security of our city. I released a guest editorial about 2 weeks ago now, touching on the safety of our community, and I directly tie the safety of Nashua to the issue of drug abuse, specifically heroin abuse, opioid abuse here within Nashua. This is an epidemic that many of us are really starting to become acutely aware of just how bad it has gotten. And it's not just Nashua. It's everywhere,
Everywhere,
across New England and the rest of the country. So we're not alone in this, but at the same time, I feel like we're a small enough city that we could be doing something about this issue. We're not going to be able to 100% eradicate it. I'm not naive enough, to think that any mayor can waltz in to the office and within a year or two completely wipe out drug abuse. But I do think because of our small size, we can use that to our advantage here in Nashua to make a really serious dent in the issue of heroin and drug abuse. And I've got some ideas that I've been looking at in other communities that I think we could take a look at here in Nashua in terms of modifying those ideas and then putting them into place here within our city. I've known our police chief, Andy Lavoie, for quite a while now. He actually went through a leadership program at the Chamber of Commerce several years ago. So I got to know him back when I was the president of the chamber and before he was the police chief. So we have a really good rapport with each other. I have 100% trust, confidence, and respect in him, for him. And I know I'm going to be able to work very, very well with him to start tackling this issue. He and I have already been talking with each other about some of the ideas I have. What I love about Andy is that he's able to sit down with me and very candidly say, here's part of that idea that can work. Here's a part of that idea that may not work. And then share with me, here's why that can't work. And then we're able to take that knowledge and work together and try and find some solutions to really tackle this issue.
Has he done anything with other towns? I mean, is he working with Manchester or Concord?
I don't know if there's a formal partnership there between him and other police departments. Certainly, I know they work very closely with our court system. You might know there's a drug court program that's now in place here in Nashua. Well? My understanding is that it is working well. They could certainly use more help from the business community and from the city at large. But my understanding is that when you look at drug courts in other parts of the state, they're working tremendously. And if we can replicate some of that success here in Nashua, we would be very well served by that. You may have also seen this week in the Telegraph the announcement by Southern New Hampshire Health Systems in where they're expanding their treatment for drug and alcohol abuse. I think they added between 5 and 10 new beds specifically for those who need treatment and are suffering from addiction. They have a great woman there who's heading up this new expanded program there, who I'm pretty excited to meet and see what she can bring to the community. But again, that announcement was just made this week. So, and we have entities like the Keystone Hall here in our community. We have really good resources already, and if we can better coordinate what Keystone is doing, what Southern New Hampshire is doing, what the police department is doing, what the mayor is able to bring to the table, I think we can make a good dent in this public safety issue.
Well, I think it's a good way of working together again, and I know the state has increased their funding of a lot of mental health. And the only thing I worry about is, again, I don't see the state pulling things together, which, the mayor of any town can only do so much.
Yep.
And to combine that with the people in different towns and different circumstances, and they can help teach people things that what worked for them.
Yep.
Again, it's a way of learning from one another.
Yes.
And I know that article you wrote, you said that's one of the things that you plan to do is to take ideas from a lot of
Precisely.
people.
We don't need to reinvent the wheel every time on every issue. And if we can take a program like what Laconia has with this former undercover narcotics officer who is now out there identifying addicts in Laconia, and rather than arresting them and bringing them into jail where they're going to sit there for a day or two and then be right back out on the streets doing the very same thing over again, he's actually befriending them, building a relationship and a level of trust with them, and then helping them get help or get assistance for their addiction. He's connected with 29 addicts in Laconia,
Really?
And I believe at last count 22 of them were actually getting treatment thanks to his efforts and his work in building that level of trust with them. That's tremendous.
Right. We should realize that people start taking drugs because they got a lot of different problems
Absolutely.
that they can't handle.
Yeah, people don't set out to become addicts. You know,
right.
I don't think anyone wakes up one day and says, "I think I'm going to try getting addicted." You know, you have an injury that results in prescripts, you know, or pain medication, and then some people that has no effect on them in terms of addiction. Others can very easily, without even knowing it, find themselves addicted to that. And when those prescripts run out and it start getting really expensive, then they turn to the cheaper stuff, and that's when the heroin enters the picture. And this can happen all over the city. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic status is, what your background is, your family heritage. It doesn't matter. I was out knocking on doors off of Exit 4 last weekend, and I knocked on the door of this woman. She was probably 50. And her door was open. The screen door was closed, and her door was open. So I went up. I could see through the screen. She was on her phone, and she saw me, and she kind of did one of these motions of, you know, come back in 5 minutes. I came back about 15 minutes later, and she apologized and said, "I'm so sorry. I was on the phone with my grandson, who just told me his best friend OD'd on heroin and died the night before." And here she is, you know, she's 50 years old, grandmother. She used to work. She told me some of her background as I got to know her. She actually used to work for the public health department here in Nashua, and has been retired now for, I think, about 10 years or so. Just like you and me, you know, an average Nashua resident, lived here all her life, has kids and now grandkids, and here she is, just like you and me, on the phone with her own grandson, who had a friend literally just last week that OD'd. So this is not something that impacts only one neighborhood in our city or only one group of people in our city. It's everywhere, Carl. And if you have a mayor and a police chief and hospital executives and directors of these social service agencies all sitting together and looking at what other communities are doing and then modifying what those ideas are and making them work here in Nashua, we need to do that. We can't just be forming study committees and task forces to start having conversations about this. Other communities are already doing things. Let's start looking at what is going well and modifying that here.
And evaluating what you're doing.
Yes.
You know, you can't, you know, sometimes you got to go tweak it and make it work. I think that's the one way, you know, you have to be open to other ideas.
Yes.
Too. Well, Chris, you know, we've run out of time.
Oh, that's it already? Okay.
But I think you got a good program there, and good luck on that. And
Thank you, Carl.
When we see who comes through the primary in just, what is it, 6 weeks?
Yeah, about 7 weeks right now.
7 weeks.
Yes,
And,
so September 8th. That's voting day. So for the viewers out there, I hope they'll go to my website, which is movenashuaforward.com. You'll find a ton of information and details there.
Very good, and I hope you have people helping you through that.
Oh, yes.
6 people running around to wanting to be mayors. It's going to be an interesting show for us.
Absolutely,
anyway.
absolutely. It's entertaining, if nothing else.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Chris.
Carl.
And thank you for listening in. I just wanted to remind you that this show is sponsored by the Nashua City Republican Committee, and we meet every second Thursday of the month, except in July and August. But in August, we're having, on August 29th, Saturday, we're having our very formal dinner where we'll have a number of the people that are running for president speaking. So please look at our website, NashuaGOP.org, and get all the details. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.